A female state trooper went missing in 1985, and 15 years later, a junkyard worker came across her uniform inside a crushed trunk. Miguel Santos had been employed at Santos Salvage for 12 years when he discovered the trunk. The July heat in Phoenix made the metal almost too hot to touch, but Miguel needed to get the 1979 Buick ready before the crusher arrived. The vehicle had been in the yard for 3 months, part of an insurance lot bought cheaply. The trunk resisted his efforts, rust had locked the mechanism, and Miguel had to pry it open with a crowbar. When it finally came loose, he expected to see the usual forgotten things: a spare tire jumper cables, maybe some old clothes. Instead, there was a neatly folded uniform. The Arizona State Police uniform looked spotless despite 15 years in storage. The name tag read R. Hartwell. Miguel had been in Phoenix long enough to recall the case. Everyone knew about Rebecca Hartwell, the female trooper who had disappeared in 1985. Media coverage had been heavy until other events took over. Miguel contacted his supervisor, Tony Medina. "Tony, you need to come look at this." "What is it?" "Miguel, I am tied up with the inventory. I found something in the Buick. A police uniform says Hartwell on it." Tony stopped what he was doing. "Do not touch anything else. I am calling the police." Detective Patricia Chen arrived half an hour later with 2 uniformed officers. She was 45 Asian American and had served with Phoenix PD for 2 decades. She remembered the Hartwell case from her early patrol years. "Mr. Santos, I need you to tell me exactly what happened," Chen said, pulling on latex gloves. Miguel took her to the Buick. "I was preparing the car for the crusher. The trunk was stuck, so I used this crowbar. When it opened, I saw the uniform folded like this." He pointed without touching. Chen examined the clothing carefully. Besides the name tag, she saw badge number 4471, the one assigned to Rebecca Hartwell. The uniform had no damage or blood. It had been cleaned and pressed before storage. "Where did this car come from?" Chen asked. Tony checked the paperwork. "Bought at an insurance auction in Tucson last April. The forms say it was from a flood damage lot, but it does not look water damaged." Chen photographed everything before sealing the uniform in an evidence bag. "I need the complete history of this vehicle, registration, insurance, records auction, details, all of it." "Detective, there is something else," Miguel said. "The trunk liner was cut. Someone had made a hidden compartment underneath." Chen leaned in. The liner had been cut and fixed back with small screws. Underneath was an empty space large enough for documents or other items. Dust marks showed something had been kept there. "We are processing the entire vehicle," Chen told the officers. "Call forensics. This is a crime scene." That night, local news covered the discovery. David Hartwell heard during the 6 o'clock broadcast. He was Rebecca's younger brother, 38 years old, and a high school math teacher in Tempe. Rebecca had been 26 when she vanished 2 years into her job with the Arizona State Police. David had always believed his sister was murdered. Officials had focused on an accident or suicide. Her patrol car had been found abandoned on Highway 87, but her body was never located. The investigation had gone cold after 6 months. David called Detective Chen right away. "Detective, I am David Hartwell, Rebecca's brother. I saw the news. I need to know what you found." "Mr. Hartwell, I know this is hard. We are reopening the investigation. I would like to meet tomorrow to go over the case. I have waited 15 years for this call. I always knew she was killed. Chen met David at Phoenix PD the next day. She had retrieved the original case file, which filled 3 boxes. The lead investigator had been Detective Robert Stone, now retired. "Mr. Hartwell, I have gone through the original reports. Can you tell me what you believe happened to your sister?" David opened a folder he brought. Rebecca was looking into something before she vanished. She had been asking about drug trafficking on the reservations. She once mentioned a name, Vincent Cormier. Who is Vincent Cormier? He was a federal prosecutor in 1985, focused on organized crime. Rebecca said she had information about corruption in his office, but she would not give details. Chen made notes. Did she report this to her superiors? She was going to. She wanted more proof first. Rebecca did not make accusations lightly. The original case files never mention this. David's expression hardened. Detective Stone never asked me. He thought Rebecca had personal problems and kept questioning me about boyfriend's depression or money issues. When I tried to tell him about corruption, he dismissed it. Chen reviewed the old photographs. Rebecca's patrol car had been left with the engine running, the driver's door open, her radio still on her gun missing, and no sign of struggle. The official theory was she walked away and died from the desert heat. Mr. Hartwell, there is another detail. The car with the uniform did not originate from Phoenix. Its registration goes back to a Tucson rental company in 1985. So someone kept the uniform all these years. That is how it appears. The clothing had been professionally cleaned and pressed. This was no random act. Someone preserved the evidence. David took out a newspaper clipping. Detective, there is something else. Vincent Cormier was appointed a federal judge in 1986, 6 months after Rebecca vanished. He has been on the bench since. Chen studied the article. Vincent Cormier had been 42 years old in 1985. An ambitious prosecutor known for delivering tough sentences, his move to the federal bench had been controversial because of his aggressive style, yet his political ties were strong. "Mr. Hartwell, I need to ask something. Did your sister keep any personal records of her work?" "She had a safety deposit box. I never got access because I was not listed as authorized. The bank said it was closed in 1986. Who closed it? They would not say, claiming it was confidential." Chen made another note. "We will have to trace that safety deposit box. If she was investigating corruption, she might have stored evidence there." The forensics unit finished going over the Buick. They found fingerprints on the screws holding the trunk liner, but none matched anyone in the system. The vehicle identification number led to a rental agency called Desert Auto Rentals, which had gone out of business in 1987. Detective Chen, this rental company is interesting. Officer James Rodriguez explained, "I checked their records. Desert Auto Rentals was owned by a firm named Southwestern Holdings." What about Southwestern Holdings? It dissolved in 1988, but incorporation papers list Vincent Cormier as the registered agent. Chen felt the connection forming. "Get me every detail on Southwestern Holdings, and I want to speak to Detective Stone." Robert Stone was living in a Scottsdale retirement home. 72 years old, with 3 decades in Arizona law enforcement, he agreed to meet when Chen called, though he seemed uneasy discussing Hartwell's case. "Detective Stone, I am reopening the Rebecca Hartwell file. Tell me why you focused on accident or suicide." Stone's tone turned defensive. Look, detective, I spent 6 months on it. There was no evidence of foul play. She was stressed about the job, had personal issues. It happens. What personal issues? Problems with her training officer, complaints about her work. She was likely facing a transfer or termination. I do not see that anywhere in the official file. Stone shifted. Not everything makes it into the record. State police wanted to keep it quiet. It would have been bad publicity. Who told you of these problems? Captain Morris, her direct supervisor. Chen already knew Captain Morris had died in 1993, making it impossible to confirm. The more she learned, the more she doubted the original inquiry. Detective Stone, did you ever investigate whether Hartwell was killed because of something she was looking into? What are you saying? Her brother said she was checking into corruption. Did you pursue that? Stone's expression changed. David Hartwell was grieving and emotional. He made accusations without proof. You cannot chase every conspiracy. But did you check it? I made some calls. There was nothing. Who did you call? I cannot remember details. It was 15 years ago. Detective Stone, think carefully. This is now a murder case. Did anyone push you to close it? Stone stood. Detective, I worked clean cases for 30 years. I resent any suggestion I was pressured or corrupt. The case closed because there was no proof of a crime. After Stone left, Chen reviewed the file again. The investigation had been minimal. Leads went nowhere. Witnesses were never questioned, and the aim seemed to be proving accident or suicide, not homicide. Then Chen's phone rang. It was Miguel Santos from the yard. Detective, I found something else. We were cleaning out the Buick, and this was wedged under the back seat. What is it? A cassette tape. Marked VC meeting, 71,585. Chen felt her heart race. July 15th, 1985 was 3 days before Rebecca Hartwell vanished. She drove to Santos Salvage immediately. Miguel had the cassette in a plastic evidence bag, handling it with care. The writing on the label was neat. VC meeting 7 to 1585. Miguel, where did you find this? Wedged far back under the rear seat. I was vacuuming and felt something hard. Had to pull it with pliers. Chen examined it. A standard microcassette like those used in small recorders. The label was clean, despite its age, meaning it had been kept safe from heat and moisture. We need this to the lab now. This might be critical. While awaiting results, Chen kept digging into Vincent Cormier. In 1985, he had been an assistant U.S. attorney focused on organized crime. He had worked on several major prosecutions of drug groups along the Mexican border. She discovered he had led the case against the Morales drug cartel that year. It collapsed when vital evidence vanished and witnesses changed their stories. Cormier blamed poor police work, but the loss drew much publicity. David Hartwell called Chen that afternoon. Detective, I remembered something. Rebecca said that name again about a week before she went missing. She said she was meeting someone about Vincent Cormier. Did she say who? No, but she was excited. She said she finally had proof of what she thought. David, think carefully. Did she ever mention recordings or tapes? Yes. She bought a small recorder a month before she vanished. She said it was for interview notes. Chen set up a meeting with David at Rebecca's apartment. The building remained, though ownership had changed several times. The current manager let them into the apartment that had been Rebecca's. It was emptied after she was declared dead, David said. The state police removed her equipment and files. I kept personal belongings. What kind of files? They told me they were case files and could not be released to family. I never saw them. Chen made a note to locate those files. David, do you know if Rebecca had contacts in the prosecutor's office? She spoke of Angela Torres, a paralegal who worked on drug cases. Chen found Angela still in the U.S. Attorney's Office, now 52, with 3 decades of service. When Chen called, she agreed to meet, but wanted secrecy. Ms. Torres, I am investigating the disappearance of Arizona State Police Officer Rebecca Hartwell in 1985. I understand you knew her. Torres seemed uneasy. That was long ago. I may not recall much. Did she ever discuss worries about corruption in the prosecutor's office? Detective, I have worked here 30 years. I have never been part of corruption. I am not saying you were, but did she ever bring you concerns about certain cases or prosecutors? Torres looked around the coffee shop. Rebecca asked about the Morales case. She felt something was wrong with how it ended. What kind of questions? She wanted to know about evidence handling and witness protection. She claimed to have information on why the case failed. Did she tell you what she knew? She said someone inside was giving the Morales group information. She believed it came from the prosecutor's office. Chen leaned forward. Did she name Vincent Cormier? Torres paused. I cannot. I should not. Miss Torres, this is a murder case. Rebecca Hartwell was killed and her uniform was found yesterday. What you know could identify her killer. Rebecca claimed she had proof Vincent Cormier was taking money from the Morales group. She said she taped a meeting. What meeting? I do not know. She was secretive, but said she would reveal everything. Chen's phone vibrated. The lab had analyzed the cassette. The audio was clear, 2 men speaking of payments and case details. Back at the station, Chen played it. The talk was incriminating. The Morales case must disappear. The proof is too strong. What do you want me to do? I cannot simply drop federal charges. You can make errors. Evidence is lost. Witnesses change. You know the method. This is dangerous. If anyone finds out, nobody will. You have been careful before. Payment is in the usual place. How much? 50,000, same as before. One voice was clearly Vincent Cormier's. Chen had heard him at legal events. The other was unknown, with a faint accent, perhaps Mexican. The tape ran 12 minutes, naming evidence to be lost and witnesses to be swayed. It was a plan to destroy the Morales case. Chen called the FBI at once. This was federal corruption with a sitting judge. Agent Sarah Marshall arrived in 2 hours. Detective Chen, this is grave. If this tape is genuine, a federal judge has been corrupt for at least 15 years. The date is July 15th, 1985. Rebecca Hartwell vanished on July 18th. I believe she died because of what she knew. Marshall read the file. We must confirm the tape and see if Judge Cormier is still tied to organized crime. What of the first investigation? It appears deliberately misdirected. We will check that too. Who led it? Robert Stone. He is retired, but I spoke with him yesterday. He was defensive. Marshall wrote notes. We must interview him formally and others from the case. Chen's phone rang. Miguel Santos again. Detective, sorry to keep calling, but we found more in the Buick hidden in the spare tire area. What now? Papers. Looks like bank records and photos. Chen and Marshall went to the yard. Miguel had them on a desk. Bank statements, deposit slips, and surveillance shots. The statements showed large deposits to Vincent Cormier's account, matching dates when major drug cases collapsed or were reduced to light sentences. The photos showed Cormier with Carlos Morales, brother of the cartel head. Meetings were in different places around Tucson and Phoenix. "This is full intelligence," Marshall said. Hartwell was not only probing corruption, she was building a federal case. Chen studied the photos. Look at the dates. These meetings happened after the Morales case ended. This was more than one case. She was uncovering an active criminal network. Marshall agreed. Likely she was killed to keep it hidden. David Hartwell arrived during evidence processing. Seeing the photos, his face drained. "David, do you recognize anything?" "The writing on the bank statements." "That is Rebecca's. She recorded everything." "How can you tell?" "I have seen her reports. She always wrote numbers the same way." "See the 7s and 9s." Marshall inspected them. If she made these, she was running a complex inquiry. This detail means she had assistance. What kind? Someone with financial record access, surveillance skills, maybe federal support. Chen wondered why no record of this was in her file. It could have been informal or secret. The proof was conclusive. Vincent Cormier had taken bribes from the Morales group for years. Rebecca Hartwell had collected the proof and planned exposure. 3 days after her last meeting, she was dead. "Agent Marshall, what is our next step?" Chen asked. "We need to approach Judge Cormier carefully. He has been on the federal bench for 15 years. He has connections throughout the legal system. If we move too quickly, evidence could disappear." "What about the original investigation?" "Someone covered this up. We will investigate that separately. But right now we need to focus on building the case against Cormier." Chen looked at David Hartwell. "David, your sister was a hero. She died trying to expose corruption. I always knew she did not just walk away. Rebecca was too dedicated to her job. We are going to find everyone involved in her death, and we are going to make sure they pay." The investigation was expanding rapidly. What had started as a missing person case was now a federal corruption investigation involving a sitting judge, organized crime, and murder. Chen knew they were only beginning to uncover the truth. Agent Marshall assembled a federal task force to investigate the Cormier corruption case. The team included FBI agents, DEA investigators, and forensic accountants. Chen remained as the local liaison maintaining jurisdiction over the homicide investigation. The task force's first priority was verifying the authenticity of Rebecca's evidence. The cassette tape was sent to the FBI's audio analysis lab in Quantico. The photographs were examined by forensic experts to confirm they had not been manipulated. Meanwhile, Chen continued investigating the original case. She tracked down other officers who had worked with Rebecca in 1985. Most were retired or had transferred to other departments. Sergeant Rita Gonzalez had been Rebecca's training officer. She was now 58 and working as a private investigator in Phoenix. When Chen called, Gonzalez agreed to meet immediately. "Detective, I have been waiting for someone to reopen Rebecca's case. I never believed she committed suicide. What did you think happened? Someone killed her." Rebecca was careful professional, dedicated. She would not have just walked away from her patrol car. Chen showed Gonzalez the evidence they had found. "Did you know Rebecca was investigating corruption?" "She never told me directly, but I suspected something. She was asking questions about case procedures, evidence handling, things like that." "Did you report your suspicions?" "I tried to. Captain Morris told me to focus on my own duties. He said the investigation was being handled properly." "What was your impression of Captain Morris?" Gonzalez paused. He was nervous about the case, more nervous than he should have been for a missing officer. How so? Usually, when an officer goes missing, the department mobilizes everything: full search media, appeals, overtime authorization. With Rebecca, it felt like they wanted to keep it quiet. Chen made notes. Did you ever interact with Detective Stone during the investigation? A few times. He kept asking about Rebecca's personal life, her mental state. He did not seem interested in the possibility that she was murdered. Did anyone else ask you about Rebecca's investigation activities? Actually, yes. About a week after she disappeared, a man came to the station. He said he was from the U.S. Attorney's Office. He wanted to know if Rebecca had been working on any federal cases. Do you remember his name? He said his name was Williams. I never saw him before or after that. Chen checked with the U.S. Attorney's Office. No one named Williams had worked there in 1985. The visit had been unofficial, possibly someone trying to determine what Rebecca knew. The forensic analysis of the cassette tape came back positive. The recording was authentic, made on July 15, 1985. Voice analysis confirmed that Vincent Cormier was one of the speakers. Agent Marshall called a task force meeting. We have enough evidence to approach Judge Cormier, but we need to be strategic about this. What do you recommend? Chen asked. We need to determine if he is still involved with organized crime. If he is, we need to catch him in the act. How do we do that? Surveillance. We watch his movements, his communications, his financial transactions. If he is still taking bribes, we will catch him. The surveillance operation began immediately. Cormier lived in an expensive house in Paradise Valley and drove a luxury car. His lifestyle seemed consistent with his judicial salary, but financial analysis revealed some irregularities. Cormier had multiple bank accounts, some in his name and others in the name of shell companies. Large deposits appeared regularly, often in cash. The amounts and timing suggested ongoing criminal activity. Chen continued investigating the original case. She found that Detective Stone had retired immediately after closing the Hartwell case. His pension had been enhanced by a special department commendation, unusual for a routine investigation. Agent Marshall, I think Detective Stone was paid to bury the investigation. What evidence do you have? He retired early with full benefits. His final case was the Hartwell investigation, and he has been defensive about his handling of the case. We will need to investigate his finances from 1985. If he took money, there might be records. David Hartwell had been helping with the investigation by providing information about Rebecca's activities. He called Chen with new information. Detective I found something in my mother's house. Rebecca gave Mama an envelope before she disappeared. She said to keep it safe. What is in the envelope? Documents about Vincent Cormier. Financial records, meeting schedules, contact information. Rebecca was planning to turn everything over to the FBI. Chen met David at his mother's house. Mrs. Hartwell was 78, living alone in the house where Rebecca had grown up. The envelope was hidden in a bedroom closet. Mrs. Hartwell, did Rebecca explain why she gave you these documents? She said she was working on something dangerous. She wanted to make sure the evidence was safe if something happened to her. Did she say what kind of danger? She said there were people who would kill to keep their secrets. She was scared, but she said she had to do what was right. The documents in the envelope were explosive. Rebecca had documented Vincent Cormier's criminal activities for months. She had identified other judges and prosecutors who were involved in the corruption network. Agent Marshall, this is bigger than we thought. Rebecca discovered an entire network of corrupted officials. How many people are we talking about? At least 6 judges, 12 prosecutors, and numerous law enforcement officers. They were all taking money from drug organizations. This explains why the original investigation was buried. Chen was assigned to take charge of the Stone arrest. What charges are we bringing? Conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, and corruption. The federal case against Cormier will be handled by the U.S. Attorney's Office. The arrests were arranged for the next morning. Chen spent the night reviewing evidence and preparing for Stone's questioning. She knew he would try to downplay his role and shift blame. At 6 a.m., Chen and 4 other detectives reached Stone's residence. He opened the door wearing a bathrobe, clearly startled by the early visit. "Detective Stone, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder in the killing of Rebecca Hartwell." Stone's expression turned pale. "This is absurd. I investigated that case correctly. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court." As Stone was handcuffed, Chen felt a wave of satisfaction. After 15 years, Rebecca's killer was finally facing arrest. At the same time, U.S. Marshals detained Vincent Cormier in his federal courthouse chambers. The arrest of a serving federal judge drew instant media coverage. Stone's interrogation began right away. Chen and Marshall conducted the questioning while Assistant U.S. Attorney Rachel Martinez observed. "Detective Stone, we have proof you accepted payment to conceal the murder of Rebecca Hartwell. This is your chance to cooperate." Stone's attorney, who had arrived quickly, told him to stay silent. But Stone appeared anxious and unsettled. "I want to make a deal," Stone said, disregarding his lawyer's advice. "What kind of deal? I'll tell you all I know about the Hartwell case and the corruption network, but I want immunity from prosecution." Martinez spoke firmly. "We are not offering immunity, but we can consider reduced charges in return for cooperation. What do you want to know?" "Begin with what happened to Rebecca Hartwell." Stone glanced at his attorney, then back at Chen. "She was killed on July 18, 1985. But I was not part of the actual murder. Who killed her?" "Carlos Morales. He was Vincent Cormier's contact in the drug trade." "How do you know Cormier told me he said Morales dealt with the problem?" Chen felt anger building. "You knew Rebecca had been murdered and you hid it. I was paid to bury the case. I did not know they planned to kill her until after." "How much were you paid?" $50,000. It was placed in an account in my wife's name." The admission was devastating. Stone confessed to accepting bribes, hiding a murder, and being part of a 15-year conspiracy. "Detective Stone, we need details about others in the corruption network." There were many of them: judges, prosecutors, police officers, even politicians. Cormier was just a fraction of the operation. "We need their names." Stone gave a list that matched Rebecca's records. The corruption ring had penetrated every tier of Arizona's justice system. "What about the break-in at the salvage yard? Were you involved in that? Cormier told me to check if evidence was still in the vehicle. I hired someone to search it. Did you find anything?" "No, you had already collected it all." The questioning went on for 6 hours. Stone described the corruption network, the murder of Rebecca Hartwell, and the long cover-up. Chen felt drained but vindicated. Rebecca's murder had been solved, and a vast corruption network exposed. yet she knew the case was far from over. Agent Marshall, how many arrests will we make? Based on Stone's statement and Rebecca's records, we expect at least 20 indictments. This will be the biggest corruption case in Arizona's history. And it all began with a junkyard worker finding a uniform in a car trunk. David Hartwell was waiting when Chen left the interrogation. Detective, did they admit it? Stone admitted hiding Rebecca's murder. We know who killed her and the motive. Who was it? Carlos Morales, under orders from Vincent Cormier. They killed Rebecca to stop her from exposing the corruption network. David began crying. After 15 years, we finally know the truth. Your sister was a hero. David, she died defending the justice system. What happens now? We arrest everyone in the conspiracy and ensure they answer for what they did to Rebecca. The arrest of Vincent Cormier sent shockwaves through the federal courthouse. As the news spread, other members of the corruption ring began to panic. Agent Marshall's team intercepted many calls between suspects discussing responses. They are trying to align their stories, Marshall told Chen. We need to act quickly before they remove evidence. Chen reviewed Rebecca's suspect list. Judge Patricia Mendez was next in line. She had been accepting bribes to sway drug cases since 1984. Judge Mendez is scheduled to preside over a major drug case next week. Chen said if we delay, she might drop charges against big dealers. The U.S. Attorney's Office is preparing warrants for 12 more arrests. We will carry them out at the same time tomorrow morning. David Hartwell had been getting threatening calls since the arrests were publicized. Someone was warning him to stop aiding the case. David, you need to take these threats seriously. Chen told him we are arranging protective custody for you. I'm not hiding. Rebecca did not hide when she was threatened. Rebecca was killed, David. We do not want the same fate for you. What about my mother? Will they threaten her too? Chen had already thought of this. We will place your mother under protection as well. These people have killed before. The protective measures were complicated by the size of the plot. With so many officers involved, it was hard to know who could be trusted. Agent Marshall, how do we protect witnesses when our own people may be compromised? We are relying solely on federal marshals, with no local police involved. The second round of arrests began at sunrise. Chen took part in Judge Mendez's arrest, catching her as she tried to shred papers in her office. Judge Mendez, you are under arrest for conspiracy and corruption. This is outrageous. I am a federal judge. You cannot arrest me without proper paperwork. We have a federal warrant signed by the chief judge. You are charged with taking bribes to sway drug trials. Mendez's computer contained emails coordinating with other members. The material showed the network was more structured than first believed. Agent Marshall, look at these emails. They hold regular meetings, plan strategies, and even have a timetable for dividing bribes. This is organized crime within the justice system. The emails also showed the group had planned to remove more possible witnesses. Rebecca Hartwell was not their only target. Look at this email from 1987. Chen said they were talking about dealing with a DEA agent who had been asking questions. Agent Rodriguez had died in a car crash in 1987. We have to look into that incident. If they killed Agent Rodriguez, there may be other victims. The case was widening beyond Rebecca's death. The corruption ring had been active for decades, affecting hundreds of cases, and possibly killing several law enforcement members. Carlos Morales, the person who actually murdered Rebecca, was still on the run. He escaped to Mexico right after the arrests started, but the FBI was working with Mexican officials to find him. We must get Morales to speak about the murder itself, Marshall said. Son's admission is useful, but Morales was the shooter. Will Mexico return him? They will, if we can show he is wanted for murder. The proof is solid. Chen got a call from Miguel Santos at the salvage yard. Detective, someone tried to get into the yard again last night, but they failed this time. What changed? I put in better protection after the first break-in. The new cameras caught them. Well, this time, Chen and Marshall checked the latest footage. The person was a woman in her 40s, dressed in business clothes, who tried to get into the Buick using advanced tools. She's not just a random thief. Marshall said she knows exactly what to do. Can we find out who she is? We are running her image through facial ID, but she is likely another part of the ring. The results came in within hours. The woman was Assistant U.S. Attorney Linda Harper, who had served in the Phoenix branch since 1983. Harper was on Rebecca's list. Chen said she was accepting bribes to drop cases. She is trying to remove proof. We have to detain her now. Harper was taken from her house. That night she had a bag with acid and other chemicals for destroying proof. Miss Harper, you are charged with conspiracy and trying to destroy proof. I want to trade info. I will tell you everything about the ring. You will have to speak with the legal team about that. Harper's account gave fresh insight into the group's activities. They had been twisting cases for over 20 years, taking millions from drug cartels. The ring had cover at every level. Harper said, if a case got too near to catching us, we had judges who would drop it, lawyers who would settle it, and officers who would misplace proof. How many cases were touched? Hundreds, maybe thousands. We let big drug dealers walk free from money. The scale of this was shocking. The ring had built a second justice system, shielding those who could pay. And about Rebecca. Hartwell Chen asked. She was digging too deep. She had dirt on Judge Cormier, but was also looking into the whole group. She could have brought us all down. So you planned to end her. I did not take part in the kill choice. That was Cormier and the Morales gang. But you knew it would happen. Harper paused. I knew she was risky. I did not know they would kill her. Chen doubted Harper's claim. The facts showed the ring as a whole had agreed to remove Rebecca Agent Marshall. We must question all of them on the kill choice. Someone gave the order to end Rebecca. We will need to offer deals so they tell on each other. The case was now a tangled web of linked crimes. Every arrest brought new proof, new names, and fresh insight into the size of the problem. David Hartwell was shaken by how big this was. Detective, I knew Rebecca was digging into dirty dealings, but I never guessed it was this huge. Your sister found one of the biggest dirty networks in U.S. history. She died to protect the justice system. How many have they killed? We are still looking, but it seems Rebecca was not the only target. Chen was under pressure from Phoenix police bosses to end the case fast. The arrests were hurting the force's image. Detective Chen, how long will this go on? Chief Williams asked. Chief, we face a plot with dozens of people. We cannot rush. The news coverage is hurting the force's good name. Chief Detective Stone was one of us. We must clean house fully. I see that. But we also have to keep the force from harm. Chen saw that even her own force cared more about its name than the truth. The rot had built a place where image outweighed justice. Agent Marshall. We should watch who we trust. Even here, What do you mean? The chief cares more about PR than solving this. That means the rot might go higher. We will look into the bosses if we have to, but now we must target the main ring. The case was now risky. The arrests had hurt the group, but also made the rest frantic. Chen knew they might do anything to keep safe, even kill more people. The turn in the case came from an odd place. Carlos Morales, waiting to be sent from Mexico, called the FBI via his lawyer and said he would help if given life in jail, not death. Morales wants a deal. Agent Marshall told Chen he will speak on Rebecca's death and the full ring's work. What will he give full info on how the ring worked, who made the calls, and who else they killed? Other targets. He says Rebecca was not the only law officer they took out. The FBI set up for Morales to be sent under tight guard. He was kept in federal lockup. As talks went on with lawyers, Chen and Marshall held the first talk with Morales. He was 48, a lifelong crook who had worked for many drug groups. Mr. Morales, we hear you wish to help. Tell us about Rebecca Hartwell. I ended her life on July 18, 1985. It was a paid job ordered by Vincent Cormier. Tell us exactly what took place. Cormier told me the officer had tapes and papers that could destroy the group. He said she had to be removed at once. How did you locate her? Detective Stone told us where she would be. He said she was working alone on Highway 87 that night. Chen felt ill hearing it. Stone had basically handed Rebecca to her killers. What happened when you met her? I pulled her over using false police ID. She believed I was another officer in need. Then I made her drive to a secluded area. I asked her what proof she had and who she had shared it with. What was her reply? She said she had given copies to someone safe. She said killing her would not stop the truth from coming. Did you think she was telling the truth? No. We checked her home and found nothing. She was lying. How did you end her life? I shot her 2 times in the head. Then I put the body in an empty mine about 50 miles from where we found her car. Chen had to step away. Hearing the details after 15 years was too much. Mr. Morales, can you guide us to the body? Yes, I can take you there. What happened to her uniform? Cormier wanted me to keep it as a way to protect himself. He said if anyone in the group turned on him, he would use it to frame them. So you kept it in the car for 15 years. I forgot about it. The car stayed in storage, and I never cleared it. Morales told them about other killings done by the group. Agent Rodriguez, the DEA agent who died in 1987, had also been killed by them. Rodriguez was getting too near the truth. About our work in Tucson, Cormier ordered his death too. How many law officers did you kill? 3 Rebecca, Hartwell, Agent Rodriguez, and a customs officer named Williams in 1989. All were ordered by Cormier. He made the calls, but the whole group knew. They all agreed the officers had to be removed. The admission was crushing. The group had killed 3 federal agents to protect their crimes. Agent Marshall, we need to tell the families of the other dead. We will do that, but now we must find Rebecca's body. Morales agreed to lead them to where he had left her body. A team of FBI experts and local police prepared for the search. The spot was far in the Sonoran Desert, about 50 miles southwest of Phoenix. Morales led them to an unused copper mine, closed since the 1960s. I threw her body down the main shaft. Morales said it is about 40 feet deep. The team used special tools to search. After 6 hours, they found remains matching Rebecca's size. We have a body, the team head said. Female, around 25, gunshot wounds to the head. David Hartwell waited at the base when they found the body. Chen had to tell him, "David, we found Rebecca. She is finally coming home." David broke down. "After 15 years, we can give her a proper burial. The team will study the remains fully. We will have a full autopsy to confirm the cause of death. Will this help the trials?" "Yes. We now have proof to back Morales's words." The finding of Rebecca's body was huge news. The press focused on the group and the killing of federal agents. Public anger was high. Judge Cormier, facing strong proof, chose to help. His lawyer spoke to the state about a plea. Cormier wants a deal. Attorney Martinez told Chen he will share all about the group. What is he giving? Names, dates, bribe, sums, and details about other crimes. He will name them all. What does he want? Life in jail, not death. Chen was torn. Cormier had ordered Rebecca's death, but his help could take down the rest. Agent Marshall, what is your view? We need him to catch the others. Without him, some might get away. But he killed Rebecca. He will still spend life in jail for it. They chose to take Cormier's deal. His help would be key to bringing down the rest. His words showed the full size of the group. Over 2 decades, they had taken millions and shaped hundreds of cases. They had shielded drug lords, crime bosses, and dirty politicians. The group was run like a company, Cormier said. We had set meetings, made plans, and shared gains. How did you choose to remove threats? We voted. If someone was close to exposing us, we talked about options. We could move them or ruin their name, but at times, killing was the only way. Who made the last call about Rebecca? Hartwell. I did, but all agreed. She was too big a risk. The words gave what was needed to charge the rest. 23 people were charged with crimes from bribery to murder. Chen felt some peace. The case was done. Rebecca's killing was solved. Her body was found, and the group was exposed. Agent Marshall, this case has taken months of my life, but it was worth it for Rebecca. Your sister would be proud. She was the real hero. She died to guard the law. The case showed the largest dirty network in Arizona history, but most of all, it solved the death of a young officer who tried to do right. The trial of the group began 6 months after the arrests. The prosecution team, headed by Assistant U.S. Attorney Martinez, had created a powerful case built on Rebecca's proof, the admissions from Morales and Cormier, and detailed financial files. Detective Stone was the first to face trial. Chen testified about the proof they had gathered, and Stone's admission, David Hartwell, spoke about his sister's work and the effect her killing had on their family. Stone knew my sister was in danger. David told the jury he could have saved her, but instead he helped her. Killers find her. Stone's lawyer claimed his client was a small player forced into helping, but the proof showed he had been taking bribes for years and had taken part in hiding Rebecca's killing. The jury took only 4 hours to return. Guilty verdicts on all counts. Stone got life in prison without parole. Justice has been served, Chen told the press outside the court. Detective Stone broke his oath and helped kill a fellow officer. Judge Mendez was the next to be tried. Her trial was harder because of her role as a federal judge, but the proof of bribery was huge. She had taken over $2 million in bribes in 15 years. Your Honor, Martinez told the jury, Judge Mendez traded her oath for money. She twisted justice and freed dangerous criminals. Her conviction came quickly. She got 25 years in federal prison and was banned for life from working in law. The trial of the network's hitmen was the most tense. Carlos Morales told of the killings he had done with graphic detail. about Rebecca's death. I killed 3 federal agents on the network's orders. Morales said they were removed because they were a threat to the group's work. The defense lawyers said Morales was lying to save himself, but the physical proof, including Rebecca's body and her recordings, backed his words. All 3 hitmen were found guilty and sentenced to death. The jury said they had killed federal agents while running a criminal group. Vincent Cormier's sentencing was the most emotional. David Hartwell gave a victim impact speech. Your Honor, Vincent Cormier ordered my sister's death because she was doing her job. Rebecca was 26, just starting her work, when this man chose she must die. My sister believed in justice. She believed the system could shield people from criminals. Vincent Cormier proved her wrong. He turned the system into a crime ring. But Rebecca's death was not for nothing. Her proof revealed this corruption group and stopped them from killing more. She died a hero, and history will know her as such. Cormier got life in prison with no parole. As he left, he showed no regret. The other group members were convicted in more trials. Over the next year, 21 people were given prison terms from 10 years to life. Chen was promoted to sergeant for her work. She used her rank to push for better internal affairs systems and stronger protection for whistleblowers. We must ensure this never happens again. Chen told her team, when officers bring proof of corruption, we must guard them, not ignore them. The Rebecca Hartwell case became a key lesson in police training. Forces nationwide used it to teach about bribery, whistleblowing, and the need to protect honest officers. Miguel Santos, the junkyard worker who found Rebecca's uniform, was honored in Phoenix. He was given a civilian award for helping solve the case. I just found something in a car trunk, Santos told the press, but it brought justice for a killed officer. I am glad to have played a small role. The Arizona State Police created the Rebecca Hartwell Award for officers who show great bravery in fighting corruption. The award is given each year to those who risk their work to reveal crime. David Hartwell went back to teaching, but also spoke for families of killed officers. He started a group to aid families in similar pain. Rebecca's death broke our family for 15 years, David said. But finding the truth and getting justice gave us peace. We want to aid others facing the same loss. The case also brought changes to how missing officer cases are handled. New rules demand more than one agency be involved and stop single departments from running probes of their own people. Chen kept working cold cases, but none matched the size or value of the Hartwell case. She often went to Rebecca's grave, now given a proper burial. I think of Rebecca. Often Chen said she was so young, so loyal to doing what is right. She died trying to guard the system, and in the end she won. The mine shaft where her body was found was closed and given a plaque. It stands as a mark of the risk faced by officers who fight corruption. Agent Marshall was promoted to lead the FBI corruption unit. She used the Hartwell lessons to form new ways to uncover police crime. The Hartwell case showed us that bribery groups can run for decades if not hunted. Marshall said we must stay alert for signs of deep corruption. The case also showed the need to guard proof and witnesses. Rebecca's proof lasted 15 years and brought justice, but other witnesses had been scared or killed. We learned that such probes need full secrecy and safety for witnesses. Marshall said the group we found was skilled and deadly. The trials drew huge press and public interest. Books were written and a TV film was made. The story of Rebecca Hartwell became a sign of honesty and sacrifice in law enforcement. Chen often spoke at police conferences about the case, stressing the need to back officers who report corruption and the importance of thorough investigations when an officer disappears. Rebecca Hartwell died trying to do what was right. Chen told audiences, "We owe it to her memory to ensure those who fight corruption are protected, not punished." The case left a long-lasting mark on law enforcement culture in Arizona. Agencies adopted new training ethics rules and reporting systems. The silence that had shielded the corruption ring was finally broken. Convictions of the key players opened the door to further inquiries. Financial files seized during the arrests exposed links to other crime groups and corrupt officials outside Arizona. Agent Marshall worked with FBI teams in California, Nevada, and New Mexico to look into cross-border corruption. The network proved far bigger than first thought. "We are finding links to similar rings in other states," Marshall told Chen. The Hartwell case might have revealed a national issue. How far does it go? We have found suspicious trends in drug cases in at least 4 states. The same groups that paid bribes in Arizona were active elsewhere. Chen was brought in to help with the wider probe. Her deep knowledge of the Arizona network made her useful in spotting links and patterns. The team learned the network worked like a franchise. Local gangs would bribe local officials, but the larger structure was run by big criminal groups. "It is like a business plan," Chen noted. "They found the weak spots in each area, then used them over and over. The scary thing is how long it ran without being noticed." Marshall replied, "Without Rebecca's death, it might still be going." The expanded probe brought arrests in 3 more states. A total of 47 people were charged in federal corruption cases tied to the Arizona ring. David Hartwell became a major witness. His insight into Rebecca's work helped prosecutors grasp the full scale of the network. "David, your sister, mapped out links. We are still finding," Martinez told him. "She saw the bigger picture. She knew corruption is never isolated. Her proof is helping us take down crime rings all over the Southwest. The money trail showed the group laundered cash through real companies. Construction firms, restaurants, and car dealerships hid bribes and profits. We are seizing over $50 million in assets," the forensic accountant said. "The ring was highly profitable." What happens to the seized assets? They go to the government with some used to repay victims of the corruption. David Hartwell got a share as payment for his sister's death. He gave it to the Rebecca Hartwell Foundation, which aids families of slain law enforcement officers. The probe also exposed the human toll of the corruption. Hundreds of drug dealers had been freed or given light sentences by corrupt officials. Many went on to commit more crimes. "We are reviewing every case the ring touched." Martinez said, "Some convictions will be thrown out, and some cases should have led to guilty verdicts. How do we repay victims of those crimes? That is a hard legal question. We are working with victim aid groups to set up a repayment plan." Chen was called to testify before Congress. The House Judiciary Committee was looking into deep corruption in federal law enforcement. "Sergeant Chen, what lessons did you take from the Hartwell case?" "The biggest is that corruption can hide in plain sight if we are not watching. The network ran for over 20 years. What changes would you suggest?" "We need stronger systems to report corruption, better safeguards for whistleblowers, and regular reviews of case results." "What about law enforcement culture? We must end the view that reporting corruption is betrayal. Officers who uncover crime should be honored, not shunned. The hearing led to new federal laws boosting whistleblower protections. The Rebecca Hartwell Act offered money rewards for reporting corruption and legal shields from retaliation. David told Chen Rebecca would be proud her sacrifice is keeping other officers safe. The law is important, but culture is harder to change. That is why we must keep telling her story, so people understand the cost of corruption. The case also had global effects. Mexican officials, embarrassed by delays in extraditing Morales, reformed their procedures. The Hartwell case became a sign of cross-border teamwork. Marshall said it proved corruption. Probes cannot be limited by borders. Are there other foreign ties? We are checking if the ring had cartel links in Colombia and elsewhere. The money flows hint at global ties. Chen was promoted to lieutenant and put in charge of a new anti-corruption unit in the Phoenix Police. Her first goal was to put in place rules drawn from the Hartwell lessons. We will probe every corruption tip hard, Chen told her team. No tip is too small. What about tips against bosses? Especially those corruption often starts at the top. The new unit handled over 200 tips in its first year, leading to 12 criminal charges and 37 discipline cases. The message was clear. Corruption would not be accepted. The Phoenix unit's success sparked similar efforts in other cities. The FBI shared training and resources so agencies could copy the program. The Hartwell case became a blueprint for battling corruption. Marshall said agencies nationwide are using our approach. What is the key protecting those who report wrongdoing? If officers do not feel safe, the system fails. The case drew study from academics. Justice scholars looked at the ring setup, the probe tactics, and the policy effects. The Hartwell case shows how corruption can be built into a system, not just be a one-time act, said Professor Williams of Arizona State University. It proves the value of watching for patterns, not just single events. How do we prevent it? Build systems that make corruption risky and hard. Regular audits, job rotation, and tough oversight are vital. Chen often spoke at the university about the case, stressing the human toll and the need for moral leadership. Rebecca Hartwell died because she believed in justice. Chen told students, everyone in the justice field must honor her legacy. 5 years after the verdicts, the Hartwell case was still shaping police work across the country. The FBI set up a standing task force to probe deep corruption in law enforcement. Agent Marshall, now an assistant director of the FBI's Criminal Investigation Branch, ran the push to expand anti-corruption work nationwide. The task force used techniques first developed in the Hartwell investigation to find and prosecute corrupt officials. We have learned that corruption networks tend to share common traits, Marshall told a conference of police chiefs. They run like organized crime groups with chains of command turf and systematic methods. How do we uncover them? Financial tracking is key. Corrupt officials leave money trails we can follow. We also search for patterns in case outcomes and unusual ties between law enforcement and criminal groups. Since it was formed, the task force had handled more than 50 corruption cases, resulting in hundreds of arrests and major reforms in policing. Chen, now a captain with the Phoenix Police Department, had become a national authority on corruption investigations. She worked with departments around the country to set up anti-corruption systems. The top lesson from the Hartwell case is that corruption is a systemic issue, not just a matter of bad individuals, Chen told the International Association of Chiefs of Police. We need systemic answers. What would those be? Regular reviews of case results, rotating assignments to avoid long-term ties with criminals, and strong safeguards for whistleblowers. How do we shift the culture that shields corrupt officers? Leadership is key. Chiefs and supervisors must make it clear that corruption will not be tolerated, and that officers who expose it are heroes, not traitors. The Rebecca Hartwell Foundation had grown into a major support network for families of murdered law enforcement officers. David Hartwell had left teaching to run it full-time. We have helped over 300 families cope with the killing of a law enforcement family member. David told the foundation board, "We provide counseling, legal help, and financial support." What is the biggest need? Families need help understanding the justice process. Many do not know how investigations work or what rights they have. Has the foundation influenced policy? We have pushed for better death benefits for law enforcement families and improved procedures for investigating officer murders. The group also set up scholarship programs for children of fallen officers. Rebecca's nephew, David's son, was among the first recipients. David said Rebecca would be proud. Her death is helping others. She always wanted to help. The case also shaped cooperation between countries. The Organization of American States created new rules for investigating cross-border corruption based on the Hartwell case. Corruption networks often cross national lines, said Ambassador Rodriguez, the OAS representative. We need international teamwork to fight them. What rules were set up? Agreements for sharing information, joint investigation steps, and coordinated enforcement actions. These have already led to success. The case remained a subject of academic study. Experts called it a turning point in how police corruption is understood. The case changed our view. Professor Williams said we now see corruption as an organizational problem, not just the acts of one person. How does that affect training? We must teach officers to detect and report systemic corruption. The warning signs are different from individual misconduct. The Hartwell case also reached popular culture. A TV series based on it won awards and drew national focus to police corruption. The show helped educate the public. Chen said people need to know how these networks operate. Has the media helped overall? Yes, it has pushed for reform and made it harder for corrupt officers to hide. Miguel Santos, the junkyard worker who found Rebecca's uniform, became a supporter of civilian oversight of police. He served on Phoenix's review board. Citizens must back honest law enforcement. Santos told a community meeting, "When we see wrongdoing, we must report it." What about fear of retaliation? That is why we must protect those who speak out. The system only works if people feel safe. The mine shaft where Rebecca's body was found was turned into a memorial. The Rebecca Hartwell Memorial Park included a visitor center with displays on police corruption. The memorial is a warning about the price of corruption, Chen said at the dedication. Rebecca died defending justice, and we must carry on her fight. Visitors came from across the country, including officers, students, and families affected by corruption. It became a destination for those devoted to police reform. The case also changed how federal agencies hired staff. The FBIDEA and others added new background check steps to spot corruption risks. We look closely at money history, personal connections, and past police work. FBI Director Thompson said the case showed that corrupt officers often have early warning signs. What about those already in the system? We now do regular lie detector tests and money audits for sensitive jobs. Prevention is better than investigation. Laws from the case spread to most states. The Rebecca Hartwell Act was expanded to cover all levels of law enforcement, giving federal whistleblower protections to everyone. The law has had real impact, Senator Martinez said. Corruption reports have risen since it passed. What about retaliation? We have brought charges in several retaliation cases. The law has teeth, and we use them. The case also shaped global police training. The FBI International Training Academy added courses on corruption investigations based on Hartwell. We are teaching officers worldwide to spot and probe corruption, said Academy Director Johnson. The methods from Hartwell can be applied anywhere. How is the global reaction? Very positive. Countries want to learn. Corruption is a global problem that needs global solutions. A decade after Rebecca's murder was solved, Chen thought about its impact. The case had changed her department and policing nationwide. Rebecca's loss was a tragedy, but it drove reforms that have saved many other officers. Chen said her sacrifice was not in vain. What still needs to be done? We must stay alert. Corruption networks are flexible and tough. They will find new methods to operate if we are not cautious. What about the future? We must keep teaching new officers about the risks of corruption and the value of ethical conduct. Every generation of officers must know Rebecca's story. The case became a central point for talks about law enforcement, ethics, and corruption. It was examined in police academies, law schools, and criminal justice programs across the nation. The Hartwell case is a clear example of how the bravery of one person can change an entire system. Professor Davis told her criminal justice class Rebecca died fighting corruption, yet her proof led to reforms that protect officers and citizens. What can we take from her story? That doing the right thing sometimes demands heavy sacrifice, but it is always worth it. Justice depends on people like Rebecca who will stand against corruption. 15 years after Rebecca Hartwell's murder was solved, the case still shaped law enforcement work and policy. The yearly Rebecca Hartwell Memorial Conference became the top meeting for law enforcement, dedicated to fighting corruption. Detective Chen, now Chief of Police for Phoenix, gave the main address at the 15th anniversary event. Her talk centered on the fight against corruption and the need to defend ethical officers. Rebecca Hartwell's investigation did not end when she died. Chen told more than 2,000 law enforcement attendees. Her proof kept working uncovering corruption and guarding innocent lives. The network she exposed ran for more than 20 years, twisting hundreds of cases and taking countless lives. Yet Rebecca's bravery and commitment finally brought them to justice. Today we have stronger safeguards for whistleblowers, better ways to investigate corruption, and a culture that honors officers who act with integrity. These reforms are Rebecca's legacy. David Hartwell, now in his 50s, devoted his life to continuing his sister's cause. The Rebecca Hartwell Foundation grew into a national group with offices in 12 states. Rebecca's death transformed our family, David said in his speech to the conference. But it also transformed law enforcement. Her sacrifice created reforms that have shielded thousands of officers. The foundation has aided more than 1,500 families hit by law enforcement, corruption, and violence. We have given counseling, legal aid, and financial help to rebuild lives. But our main goal is education. We must ensure every new officer knows the value of ethics and the risk of corruption. Agent Marshall, now retired from the FB, I wrote a book about the case called The Hartwell Investigation: How One Officer's Courage Exposed a Conspiracy. The book became required reading in police academies and criminal justice programs. Writing it was hard emotionally, Marshall said to the audience, but it mattered to record our investigation methods and the systemic issues we found. The book has been printed in 12 languages and is used by law enforcement worldwide. Rebecca's story is now a global symbol of police integrity. The core lesson is that corruption is a system problem needing system solutions. One arrest is not enough. We must alter the culture and structure that allow corruption to grow. The conference showed new anti-corruption tools and methods. Artificial intelligence could scan case records and flag likely corruption. Financial systems could spot odd payments that suggest bribery. Technology gives us fresh weapons to combat corruption, said Dr. Sarah Kim from MIT. But tools alone are not enough. We still need bold officers like Rebecca ready to resist corruption. What about privacy? We must balance privacy with the need to uncover corruption. But corruption costs so much that every tool must be used. The event also hosted families of officers killed fighting corruption. Rebecca's story pushed other families to speak out. My husband was killed for exposing drug corruption in his unit, said Maria Santos, whose husband died in California. The Rebecca Hartwell Foundation helped us get justice and change the department. How did they help? They gave legal aid, guided us through the probe, and linked us with other families in the same fight. What changes came? The unit now has stronger anti-corruption rules and better safety for officers who report. My husband's death drove reforms that protect others. The event closed with a memorial for officers killed for opposing corruption. Rebecca's name was read, first followed by 67 more. These officers died upholding the honor of law enforcement. Chen said, their loss shows corruption is not just about money or power. It is about life and death. Miguel Santos, now retired from the salvage yard, joined as a guest. His finding of Rebecca's uniform started the case that destroyed the corruption network. I was just working when I found that uniform. Santos said, but it brought justice for a slain officer and reforms to defend others. How did it change you? It proved to me that any person can make a difference. When we see wrong, we must speak. What do you say to civilians? Stand with honest law enforcement. If you see corruption, report it. The system only works with citizen help. The event ended with the giving of the yearly Rebecca Hartwell Award for courage in fighting corruption. The honor has gone to officers across the globe who faced danger to expose corruption. This year, Detective Rosa Martinez from El Paso, Texas, won it for uncovering a drug corruption ring in her unit. Like Rebecca, she met threats and backlash for her work. Detective Martinez is the finest example of law enforcement. Chen said, she chose what was right even when it was risky. What made you keep going? Despite threats, a reporter asked Martinez. I reflected on Rebecca Hartwell's story. She lost her life confronting corruption, but the proof she gathered brought those responsible to justice. I knew I couldn't allow the rot within my department to remain. What had changed since my inquiry began? A dozen officers were taken into custody, and new anti-corruption policies were introduced. It had been a long and painful process, but one that had to be done. The reach of the Hartwell case stretched far beyond policing. It reshaped how corporations handled governance, influenced government ethics, and sparked academic work on corruption. Business schools now use the case as a model for understanding corruption networks, said Professor Johnson of Harvard Business School. The same patterns keep surfacing in corporate scandals. What are those patterns? Groups of insiders exchanging resources and profits, systematically bypassing oversight and neutralizing any perceived threats to their operations. How do we stop corporate corruption? By applying the same strategies effective in law enforcement, rigorous oversight, protections for whistleblowers, and a commitment to ethics over financial gain. The case also altered the global fight against corruption. The United Nations adopted investigation protocols based on the Hartwell findings for tackling cross-border cases. As Ambassador Chen, unrelated to Detective Chen, noted, such networks rarely stay within one country. International cooperation is vital to dismantle them. Which measures were put in place? Cross-border data sharing, joint investigation teams, and coordinated enforcement campaigns. Several multi-country cases have already been successfully prosecuted. Rebecca Hartwell Memorial Park became a national monument. Congress recognized its historical value in the anti-corruption fight, designating it as a protected site. Over 50,000 people visit annually, Park Ranger Williams reported, many traveling from abroad to hear Rebecca's story. What resonates most with them? The detailed display showing how corruption networks function. Visitors are often stunned by their complexity and reach. And the memorial itself? It deeply moves people, reminding them Rebecca gave her life for justice and inspiring them to follow her example. Popular culture also absorbed her story. Alongside a television series, several books, documentaries, and films were produced. Hartwell's life became a symbol of police integrity. Media attention has been largely favorable, Chen said, helping the public grasp the dangers of corruption and the need for honest law enforcement. Was there any downside? A few grew more distrustful of police after learning how deep the corruption ran. Still, the larger point was that the system could work. The wrongdoing had been uncovered and punished. The case also spurred advances in technology. Predictive data analysis began identifying corruption patterns, and digital forensics could follow money trails across borders. We're using AI to scan cases for anomalies, explained Dr. Kim from MIT. It catches signs human investigators might overlook. How effective has it been? More than 200 possible corruption cases have been flagged. The technology doesn't replace investigators, but gives them stronger leads. Legal reforms inspired by the investigation have spread worldwide. Over 50 countries now use the Hartwell protocols as a template for probing police corruption, said Professor Davis from the International Criminal Justice Institute. Based directly on the original methods, these frameworks have improved case success rates globally. At the close of an international conference, Chen looked back on the 15 years since Hartwell's killer was caught. The case had altered her personally, reshaped her department, and transformed law enforcement across continents. Rebecca's death was a loss beyond words, yet it sparked reforms that have shielded both officers and citizens. In her final remarks, Chen said, her sacrifice had meaning. The battle against corruption never ends. Each new generation must learn the value of ethics and the cost of corruption. Rebecca Hartwell died for justice. Our duty is to keep that cause alive. Delegates returned home, carrying Hartwell's story and the lessons drawn from it. The global effort against corruption continued, with her legacy as a guiding force. In a quiet cemetery, Rebecca's headstone simply reads, Officer Rebecca Hartwell. She died fighting for justice. Visitors still leave flowers and handwritten vows to carry on her mission. What began with a junkyard worker finding a uniform in a car trunk became one of the largest corruption exposés in U.S. history. More importantly, it drove changes that safeguard honest officers and strengthen the justice system. Her legacy endures in every officer who chooses integrity over greed, in each whistleblower who steps forward, and in all reforms making justice fairer and stronger. Her name is kept alive in classrooms, in investigations, and in the hearts of those willing to face danger for what is right. The young trooper who went missing in 1985 became eternal in the fight for justice.